My mom says to me one day, Mr. Portillo works out at Lifetime Fitness. I go, does he? She says, what's it going to hurt to go talk to him? I thought to myself, I'm probably 18 years old and, someone of that stature, some people would be a little bit nervous about doing that. You've known me a long time. I don't care who they are. I'll go up and talk to them. It doesn't matter.
None of this surprises me.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So we're at Lifetime and he's working out. He sees me in the corner of his eye. He's just about leaving. I kind of built up the audacity to ask him. So I walked out in the parking lot. I said, Mr. Portillo, I know you know who I am. And he laughed. And I said, I have a product to pitch you.
Okay, here we are, episode 4 of the Rate of Success. You're actually here, Adam, for our new name. So I want to welcome Adam McCrae. So this is going to be a little bit different of a podcast because Adam and I are good friends. We probably know way too much about each other to be doing something on camera. So I want to welcome Adam McCrae. Adam owns his own brokerage, McCrae Realty Group. So why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the business?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thanks for having me here.
Absolutely.
This beautiful studio. You've done a tremendous job helping me throughout this, the years we've been doing business together. So it's helped me with my success. So I just want to first and foremost say that. Started the business in 2006. As you remember, we working for my parents' business and selling real estate on the side. And it's, after time, because it takes time to build a business, as you know, and just stayed with it. Established relationships with a lot of people in the food service distribution business, and then just started selling houses. So I'm like, wow, it's given me a little bit more freedom to own and operate something that I have a lot of passion with. So I think it kind of caught on pretty quickly, probably about 5 years ago, where I opened up my own business and decided to kind of rock and roll with it. Another thing is your team, from start to finish, when my clients go through a process of a home purchase, it's always like, wow, the white glove service that you provide where you're actually making phone calls. When I'm presenting offers, and this has helped me in my career, especially in let's call it the last 5 years, where the market's been up and down and there's a lot of things we've never seen before. Yeah. True? And when I'm presenting offers and there's 7 or 8 other offers and you've taken the time to call listing agents, and being that you're such a pillar in the community, people know, rate, and they know who you are. It helps tremendously with making my job a lot easier. I can put the offer together, but you being a point of contact, knowing like, oh, we've worked with Eric before, we know the deal is going to go by smooth. So that's kind of what I look at when I'm building a relationship, and especially with my attorneys, my inspectors. So it's about having that whole team. Even working with sellers. Sellers say, hey, we're looking forward to selling our house, but I've always told people, it's a team effort. I can't do it alone. It's the husband, the wife, it's the kids getting the room cleaned up just to get ready for showings, whatever it is. Rate being such a big name in this industry, it's helped me again, and especially now in the last 5 years, there's multiple offers on everything. Yeah. If you don't think that, you're crazy to think that. You're crazy not to think that. Yeah. If it be a price point at 7 figures or a sub 7 figures. So I think it's been tremendous to work with you, your team. I get constant phone calls from Tom or anybody from your Jody or anybody else who's been able to kind of navigate me. Because realistically, I'm out trying to talk to the public. If I'm at an ice rink or I'm at a restaurant or whatever it is to engage with the public to build your business, it's always nice to know like, hey, I work with the guy right down the street. And people want to see a brick and mortar. That's how I believe. I believe that, you do the concerts in the park. And I've always loved when I see that you're engaging with the public. And that's what our job is. Yeah. It's really, for instance, I bring up both my boys play ice hockey, right? You know that my daughters do cheerleading. So I said to myself at the start of this season, I said, well, I'm already closing on 2 deals on people who are already in this new organization we joined. And I'm like, it's the people who you constantly hang out and engage with. Yeah. And then people feel comfortable with you. And then just coincidentally, they throw you a deal or someone they know or someone who can help you propel your business. I think it's important as realtors, again, to engage with the public as much as possible. Again, the stuff that you do for veterans and all those other things, it's a big impact.
And you touched on it a little bit, but I actually want to unpack it a little bit. So, I remember when we were growing up, you had this tremendous work ethic.
Thank you.
I think you kind of gloss over a little bit, but we would, you got up at 3:30 in the morning, I think it was, or wherever, and we would be out late at night, and you were always heading home, sometimes with an hour worth of sleep.
Yes.
To head to the market and to work, and there wasn't a time that you missed it, at least that
Correct.
I'm aware of.
No,
You
it's
know,
correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
you would sometimes sleep in your car or, whatever. And so you had this tremendous amount of work ethic, and you have a family business, which, we have a group of friends that, have family businesses that we grew up in. It was always the kind of the same work ethic that each of our friends always
Yes.
had, because you had this responsibility to your family. And I think it instilled a lot of really important qualities that you use today. Not to mention, there's the work ethic, but it's also the relationships.
Yes.
Like that business that you did with your dad was based off of relationships.
Yep.
Like, because when we would go downtown, all these people would come up to you.
Yes.
And, they knew you, they loved you. And that same type of what you do today is very similar to what you did then. So how did that family business and all the things that you learned, during that time really kind of prepare you for what you do today? Because I think that's where most of your success comes from. You're obviously great at what you do.
100%.
But
100%.
like it's more than that. You have a very unique ability to establish relationships with the people that you work with that I don't think people today fully, it's so easy nowadays to be, oh, we got to get it done. We're going to list the house, technology. We're going to send a text. We're going to send an email. I notice in a lot of the stuff that you post, you do a very good job telling the story, but how much of what you did previously for your family business kind of prepared you for what you do today?
It's a great question. I work for my family. So what we would do is we would buy fresh produce for restaurants, hotels, country clubs, so forth and so forth. And working for a family business, there's a kind of a higher expectation that's required of you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I give a lot of thanks to my parents for instilling a very hard work ethic that helped me to be a point where I demand excellence of myself to make sure that I exceed the expectations of my clients.
Yeah.
So if I, as a young kid, you think about, well, got to make sure I come back to the warehouse with all the most perfect products, because if the perfect product wasn't there, it would cost money to go back. Let's throw it back into real estate. If you make a mistake throughout the start of the deal, you're going to have to revert back, and it's going to waste time and money.
Yeah.
So if you do it right that first time, the rest of the day is going to go very smoothly.
Yeah.
So exceeding expectations with clients, and I feel kind of like what I've tried to do, especially to kind of divert myself from other brokers, is I went back to door knocking. Yeah. I know people are like, I get it.
But there's a lot of relationships in that as well. You're confident to do it because you're used to, I'm sure you did that plenty of times when you would knock on restaurants, can I talk to the chef and who delivers your produce?
I can tell you, this is a story I tell all the time, and you're going to laugh at this one. This is honest to God truth.
Yeah.
We used to sell Portillos.
Yeah.
We had about 4 locations at one point. So Dick Portillo was giving us a trial run on things. They used to buy cases, let's just call it a case of lettuce, and they would process those items, those salads, per location.
Yeah.
So at a company distributor come to us and say, listen, we have the finished product you can provide to the Portillos. It's now like a chopped, fully processed box of lettuce.
Yeah.
So my mom says to me one day, she says, Mr. Portillo works out at Lifetime Fitness. I go, does he? She says, what's it going to hurt to go talk to him? I thought to myself, I'm probably 18 years old, and someone of that stature, some people would be a little bit nervous about doing that. You've known me a long time. You know I don't care who they are. I'll go up and talk to them. It doesn't matter.
None of this surprises me.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So we're at Lifetime, and he's working out. He sees me in the corner of his eye. He knew who I was through my parents.
Yeah.
And I go out. He's just about leaving. I kind of built up the audacity to ask him. So I walked out in the parking lot. I said, Mr. Portillo, I know you know who I am. And he laughed. And I said, I have a product to pitch you. And he goes, listen, I don't have the time to talk about it. His right-hand person was a woman that was in contact with us. And 2 days later, they said, well, it looks like she called my mom. Didn't call my dad. She called my mom.
Yeah.
She says, your son sold Mr. Portillo. He wants to meet him next week at this processing facility. So I'm like, but I was blown away. Yeah. But it comes back to, don't be afraid to talk to somebody. I don't care who they are. You never know what the situation is. Going back to door knocking, you never know if someone's interested. You never know, but that you're getting in front of people, you're engaging with people.
I always tell my team that you have to get used to rejection.
Yes.
And you almost need to thrive in it.
Yes.
Because that one yes, you just never know what's around the corner. If you're worried about the rejection, you never get to that yes.
Correct.
What age did you start working at your parents' family business?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because there's a point in this, because I remember, and your story's probably the same, is I remember a good friend of ours would say, like, when we had a half day at school, we would all go to the mall or do whatever. Yes. And what did you do on your half days?
Go to work with the parents.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but again, that instills a work ethic that I don't think at the time when you're younger, you fully understand or comprehend what it does to you, but it teaches you something that you use the rest of your life, that you then teach your kids, and now they learn from you. And maybe you do things different. Maybe they, you're not obviously having them do open houses on the weekend. But,
but they'll sit at shoulders with me in the car.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's important, because I think that really helps, kind of guide where you are today. That really explains a lot to customers. And I think you do a good job of telling that story to your customers to really get a full representation of who you are. So you're younger, you're meeting all these people at these restaurants, you're gaining that confidence.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously have this work ethic. And then all of a sudden, where did the real estate bug really kind of come in? Because I remember we've talked about it plenty of times. Yeah. It was out there.
Yeah.
But there was a moment that you really kind of, I'll say all in.
Kicked it in gear.
Yeah, exactly. But you were still doing good. Doing both. Yeah. But there was that moment that you really, what was that kind of, that kind of said, this is something that I want to do?
That's a great question. I think it came to the point where my wife was pregnant with my fourth kid, was my younger son. And I felt that when you're in a family business, there are times when you have to cut away. I hate to say it this way, but it could be the most unusual times you have to cut away and go help out a customer.
Yeah.
That's really what I did. If it would be Mastro's downtown, needed a case of whatever on a Saturday night. It was a pain in the butt.
I remember you dropping stuff
You
off
remember this? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we would walk in the back door of some of these restaurants.
I remember being out, and we would all be, going out for the night, and you'd be dropping off, a case of something.
But it came back to where I took care of business first, then had fun.
Yeah.
So that was always the mindset that I was taught when I was a young kid. I was excited about going to work with my dad. My dad was my...
Well, can I just interrupt you there? Because I don't think you give yourself enough credit there. For you to have that mentality at that age... Okay. Most people, we're all thinking about ourselves at those ages. We're thinking about where can we go, who we're going to meet, let's go out with our friends, where are we going drinking? And you always did such a great job of putting that's where that work ethic is.
Yes.
It was always something that, I say this as a friend, but also as a business associate, like, it's very respectful how devoted you were to your family's business.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And not only to that, but to the people that depended on you. And it says a lot about your real estate career, because I see those same qualities that you had when we were younger. Like, you'll drop everything.
Yes.
Yes. Don't tell your wife. Hello. But you'll drop everything to go and help a customer or to put them through. And that's a quality that you learned, at a very young age, that is all about relationships. Again, you can't teach that to people. You just learn that. So it's something that you do a really, really good job. And I just want to commend you for that, because I think it is a lot of why your success in the real estate business has been so great, is because you've had this, like, it sounds so simple, I'm just going to be there and I'm going to take care of my clients and I'm going to help them. But it's not something everyone does. You deserve a lot of credit for that.
I think that even like answering, I know something simple is like answering the phone. Yeah. I mean, Eric, and I both know I've called you and text you more or less, and if it's 8 o'clock at night, you answer your phone. Yeah. Half the battle is just answer your phone. And if you're there for those customers when they need you, they're not going to like turn their back on you and say, oh, this guy wasn't there. This guy wasn't there. Just be there for them. Whatever, they need someone to paint her. They need a plumber. And if you're there to facilitate for those people, so you're not just like making the sale and it's like relationship done with, no. What do you need? That's what the point is like that relationship has to carry throughout, because you're going to sell them a house, the one family house. Then guess what? You're going to get the cousin. You're going to get this.
And I think your customers tell the story as good as you do, because the one thing I've noticed is every time you make a post or anytime you do something, all of your customers are responding to that post and saying, and again, I'm not going to, trash anybody else, but most people don't get their past customers responding to promotional on Facebook about how great of a service you did. And that just is a testimonial to you to what you've done, how you've created. And I love how authentic you are when you do a video. You're not
Thank you.
in a studio.
No.
You're at a train platform,
Yes.
background noise.
Yes.
A little umbrella, your
Yes.
kid's umbrella.
You remember that one?
I do. They're all my favorites. So I love that
it.
because it shows who you are.
Yeah.
And that's Adam I know.
Yeah.
That's why I enjoy working with you. And I think that's why all these other people, and I think you just do a really good job of, kind of being yourself and not trying to be someone else. And that really is why a lot of these people really want to do business with you. So just to go back, so you got into real estate, you decided to go full time. And what was that path like those first couple years? Because you said you had a child on the way. Always an awesome time to start a 100% commission job is when you have a baby on the way. Perfect timing.
Plan that one out.
Yeah, perfect timing. But what does that look like, entering the business? And how did that play out for you, and what did you learn from that?
Great question. I think more or less when you're set into a situation where you have no other choice, you want to follow your dreams and you're going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Failure's not an option.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I want to go back to my wife was a staunch, supporter of mine, supported me saying, you can do it, just do it. Don't, and to be straightforward with people. I think that if I've always been straightforward to project to people that I'm not here to, muddy the waters or whatever the case may be, but to be straightforward and tell you not what you want to hear, but what the reality is. And I think just with the relationships that we carry throughout this whole process is that people are excited to work with you. 2020, where I decided to kind of said, I walked away from my family business. Kind of what you said before, it wasn't really planned out.
Yeah.
More or less, I just dropped the keys on the table and said, here, have a nice day. But it was my choice. And I think you have to live with those decisions. And I thought it was the greatest situation. I didn't want to go dip my toes in the water and just see how it goes. No, I want to go full force in anything.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. If any kind of project you're going to do, you want to go full force. So at that point, I think COVID was starting to kick up a little bit. A little bit here and there, but whatever. And then that's when real estate got really, really difficult. There were people like, we're not showing houses. And I'm like, how am I going to get through this? But I said, you know what? Stay on task, stay focused, do exactly what you need to do. I think we went to 360 views with people walking through the house virtually, but it was trying to assimilate to the situation and not get excuses. No one wants to hear excuses. Just do what you have to do to get the job done and do it well. Because
is there anything you learned in the time of you starting your business and that beginning that, took you a while to kind of figure out that you wish if you had to go back and say, or were those mistakes kind of, was there anything that you learned that were like, oh my God, I wish I could have learned this sooner? Was there something that really stuck out that you kind of wish you would have figured out quicker?
I think that I wish I would have jumped into real estate earlier.
Yeah.
I think just the fear of what we don't know is what scares people. And that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you just said it. You walk into a fully commissioned job.
Yeah.
When you have 4 kids,
and
there are 6 people in a family, and I had to sell this to my wife.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned your wife. So I talk about this, when Tom started with me or anybody, loan officer starts with me, Skip, everybody, they're always surprised. But one of the first questions I always ask them is, what's your support system like at home?
Yeah.
Because to me, that's almost more important than the structure you have at work.
Yep.
Structure you have at work is great and whatever else, but when you're taking a call at 8:30 at night, you're gone on a Tuesday night, when you're, all these things that happen to us that we're required to do, you need someone else to support you during that time, and you need to have that support. So you talked a lot about that. I love that you brought it up because I just feel like most of us don't realize how important that is to the success of our business because it's a team.
Yep.
And, we're a part of a team and you have to think about it as a team, and your significant other needs to be that other team member that, I always say sacrifice. There's going to be a lot of sacrifice that we have to make. So was that a difficult conversation? Was that just assumed when you got into the business or was it just kind of understood? What was that like for you and your wife to kind of come to kind of an agreement of how this was going to be? Because you are available, a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I answer the phone. I don't care what time. If I'm awake, I'm answering the phone.
Yeah.
And because there might be something comes up. But I think my wife, knowing that I came from the food service, or I originally was in the food service business, so that's a very demanding business. I mean, you're wearing many hats when you own a business. You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think I was straightforward with my wife when we first met.
Yeah.
I think you were there when we first met, actually.
Yeah.
But I've said to her straightforward always is that, if you want to I want to provide a great family life for you and the kids. And these are times where I have to cut away. I have to answer the phone or I have to go to a showing. But that foundation was kind of established when we started dating, I think. And there was no surprises, more or less, because again, you brought up is that my work ethic working for my parents' business has transferred equally over to the real estate business. So nothing's changed. I'm the same person who went up to Mr. Portillo. I'll go up to anybody. The guy who owns Ice Rink, the guy who owns a corporation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We all put our pants on the same way, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
You're being very modest about it, but I think that is what makes you... A lot of people don't have that same confidence, even that have been in the business for a really long time.
Yeah.
There's some people that won't even get in front of a camera to talk, but you have always had this kind of like no fear, attitude, whether it's riding a motorcycle or, Yeah, I know, right? Right. So Adam and I, we had some great times on motorcycles for a long time.
You had a green one, and I had the same bike as an orange one.
Yeah, we had the same exact motorcycle, 2 different colors. We had a lot of fun. So
my mom was so happy that you went.
I know. There's one thing that was not. There's 2 times my mom has been mad at me. Number one, is when I drove home on a motorcycle, and she was equally as mad as Mark.
Yes.
And your mom was mad at me. Yeah. So I get it. So okay. So you're in real estate. You're obviously successful. Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel like your approach listings, because I love you're on a listing presentation. I think you have a very unique way of handling listings. I feel like you have a good process.
Thank you.
But what I do love about your business is there's some people that have a business and it's all like documented and it's very like, type A, okay? Mm-hmm. What I love about your business is not that you don't do that because you have a process.
Yeah.
I feel like you cater more individually to each client. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, some people would say, oh, well, you're hiring me. This is my process. And I think you have that.
Yes.
But I also feel like you do a good job of taking the temperature of the client and really kind of like catering things to them. So can you talk, am I right about that?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Well, here, I have a listing in Homer Glen. This is actually a really good story. 3 months ago, I sold a house in Homer Glen for $940. Listed for $950, sold for $940. It was gone in 2 days.
Yeah.
I walked the neighborhood. I met this family. And Homer Glen, he's a lacrosse coach. His wife's a medical supplies, big sales team she manages. 2 dogs, 2 kids, they're all in sports. So I say to myself, showings are a difficult thing for the family, right? So you got to think about like getting the house prepared, getting the kids, making sure the bedrooms are clean, making sure the dogs, there's no dog poop in the backyard, whatever the case may be. So I kind of look at customizing listings. There's some properties that you just put a lockbox on and whatever. There's some properties that you have to walk the narrative a little bit. Yeah. And what I mean by that is it has to be where the listing agent shows up and the buyer's agent shows up. So this is something I've done a little bit differently, especially since this whole NAR thing that came out. And in my opinion, it's a little bit more work on my side, but I've tried to show homes personally.
Yeah.
So listing agent shows up, buyer agent shows up, buyers show up. I walk the home with them, explain to them everything that's been done. And it's been tremendously successful. Yeah. And I get where you put a lockbox on the door, you get your feedback, there's booties at the door, you walk in, you get your feedback, and you're done. I'm fine. I get it. I've done it before. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. Everyone has their own method of doing their business. But I thought to myself how do I make myself a little bit different than the other broker? Brokers can do whatever they want. I don't care. But when a seller sees me pull up and I'm in a suit and I'm here to show the property and the buyer's agent looks at me and goes, what are you doing here? I like that.
Yeah.
Appraiser walks up and my listing and the appraiser's like, what are you doing here? Oh, I don't know. I have the comps for you that you don't have to look up. That we're both looking at the same information. You and I both know that.
It all goes back to work ethic and relationships, though, because that is going above and beyond and says a lot about your business. And I think it's very unique in the sense of, I love the fact that you're at the listings. That's a very, non-traditional approach, but it also accomplishes what you're trying to do. Your brand, and that allows you to provide that tailored service that fits your client. I think that's very unique and I love it. And it's not taking the easy button like a lot of people do, because you said, I think that's what makes even the NAR lawsuit, there's so much about our business that has become a commodity.
Yeah.
You know, you can find homes online. You can write a contract, you know, online. You can do all these things, okay? But there's no relationship and there's no service.
Correct.
What you're focusing on is the service side of it, which again goes back to what you did before, and it all kind of ties together.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you're used to. That's the way you were raised. And, you know, I love all of that. And you're not afraid to be there when the agent, buyer's agent's like, why are you here? Because it's non-traditional.
Correct.
But in other markets, it's very traditional.
In the city?
In the city, yeah.
That's where I came from originally.
Yeah.
I used to work at another big brokership downtown.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned was the selling agent shows up, or listing agent shows up, buyer's agent shows up. So I think more take that, not the model than what they're doing in the city, but just transfer and give a little bit more service to clients. And then when the closing comes up, they go back to feedback with their friends, and they're today's Friday.
Yeah.
So they're all going to talk about how my broker showed up to every showing. I've got feedback face to face with him on a regular basis. People are going to ask, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And that's what people want. That's that you throw the rock in the pond and then just like it's a ripple effect.
And I think that's the thing, that people don't refer you because you got the highest sales price. That is what they expect. People refer the experience that they have, the relationship they develop with you, and all the little things that you do. That's your brand. That's what they're referring. So when people refer you or they respond on one of your Facebook posts or do whatever, they're saying, yeah, that's my realtor who did this for me, who did that for me. And I feel like that's where you've kind of separated yourself. So one thing I want to kind of dig in a little bit is, you know, you obviously own your own brokerage. That's a whole nother responsibility that a lot of people either want to take on or they do you want to take on or don't want to take on, or because they want maybe infrastructure, or, you know, but obviously you've come from a family business. Yeah. So you're used to being a business owner. Yes. So that doesn't scare you. Yeah. What was the motivation to open up your own brokerage outside of the, obviously, financials or anything like that? Just kind of, but then also, what has the experience been like over the last couple of years?
Well, good question. I've had many brokerages come up to me and offer me positions to come work from, and tremendous offices, which if I didn't open up my own company, then I would have gone and worked for them. But I think, again, when we go back to my my roots and my parents, I wanted to have my own independence, and I wanted to have my own brand. I wanted to just make it what McCrae Realty Group is, and nothing against other companies. It's just I wanted to do my own thing and kind of have my own identity. People have approached me and says, why don't you go work for a bigger office? And that maybe has benefits to it. That's fine. But I thought that this pathway would have been something I would have taken a little bit more pride in. And I think that just in general, it's hard. I mean, the hardest part of it was when you've worked for a family business for so long, and you just come to work and you just do your thing. You're in that mode. But then when you have to go do it by yourself, you're like, whoa. You're kind of, not the deer in headlights, but you're like, wow, I'm making this step forward on my own. Yeah. Not with anybody's discretion. And you know what? If you fall on your face, you fall on your face.
Was there any part of you that were like, you wanted to build, I don't want to say to prove anything, but was there anything, a part of you where you were like, I really want to do this for myself. I've been doing something for everybody else my whole life. Yeah. I want to build this for me. And I want to kind of show people like, this is what I'm capable of. Yes. Yeah. Because really, realistically, you know, I mean, if you look at where the food service business was, just in the it's two different industries. But I wanted to prove to the doubters. Yeah. And there's nothing. I enjoy the doubters. Yeah. I embrace people who hated. I embrace people who had negative connotations. But then, you know what? You prove that by action. Talk is cheap, and I think you'll agree with me on that, but actions speak louder than words. Again, I'm going to go back to people who doubted the situation, and it is a large undertaking, even for anybody, but I think if people just don't be so reluctant, don't be so afraid to just try. If you try and fail, you tried. And you can always go back saying, you know what, at least I gave it a shot. And I think that's why I was 40. I'm 45 now. I think when I started my own business, I was 40. I said, well, if I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it. And you know what the biggest thing is living with regrets. Well, and I think that's a great point, because I mean, my story is very similar, but, you know, I I don't have a college degree. I didn't really have, we talked about, failure wasn't an option. I really didn't have anything else. You're trying to figure out where things are going to, land and what you're going to do. And then all of a sudden you get an opportunity to, start a business or do whatever. Many people don't take that route. They take the route of security. And it says a lot about who you are that you took the route of, because you very easily could have gone to a brokerage, had everything handed to you.
Yes.
You could have made great money, okay? But you chose this path of opening a brokerage, building a business, taking the risk. And I think that says a lot about who you are and what makes Adam McCrae unique to other people. And I think it's something you should really be proud of, because I think it's something that's very unique that a lot of people don't do. I think a lot of people would love the idea, but they just don't take the risk, especially at 40. Maybe at 30.
Yeah.
But 40. So I give you a lot of credit for that. You're obviously successful. You're in the business. Brokerage is doing well. Then, you have COVID. So, things are crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all think we're awesome, as we say, phone's ringing.
Yeah.
We don't have to do a lot. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of changes. 2023, 2024.
Yep.
Okay. So unique times.
Yes.
You've done very well during those times. Okay. 8% interest rates. We have an election this year. Now rates are coming down.
Yeah.
What you think is the qualities, and I know it goes back to work ethic and relationships, but what are those things what's kind of been your message as you go on a listing presentation or you're working with a buyer when you have all this noise?
Yeah.
There's so much noise. And
Always.
it's I know what we talk about every day, and I'm sure it's a lot of the same things, but what's kind of been your message to people when, they have those concerns? Because most of your meetings now are very different.
Yes.
It used to be, oh, well, rates are 3%. You want to do now before rates go up. And, it was an easy, again, we were order takers.
Yes.
Now you're a professional.
Yes.
I use the analogy all the time. I've said it a bunch, is separation season.
Yes.
We're separating the players from the industry from the pretenders.
Yes.
And what's that conversation look like now with a buyer or seller that's a little bit different now than it was before?
Well, I think sellers are excited to see, again, where a listing agent will show up and give them that white glove service. And I think that just in general, we go back to the door knocking in Homer Glen. I went to the client, I said, listen, give me an opportunity to give you kind of like a comparative market analysis on your property. I'm offering you a service. If it takes me a half hour, it takes me a half hour. But if I present you with that information, then now you have information to say, well, we can decide on which direction we want to go. Yeah. If I'm able to get out to as many people as possible and get out to CMAs to people and explain to them, like, you've had your house for 3-4 years. You've made money on it. I mean, let's be realistic here. So people who were like, I don't want to sell because of interest rates. Well, okay, let's be realistic here. You can refinance.
Yeah.
But with inventory, you want to make that move. What happens when rates go back down to 4%?
Yeah.
The market's going to be flooded with buyers because now buying is cheaper than renting. I don't know. I mean, you got to look at the numbers.
It depends on the market. Illinois is actually very, very favorable for that. Yeah.
So I think if you turn the TV off a little bit, the noise, the outside noise, and explain to people, like, this is the marketplace. I'm a professional in the marketplace. I sell this amount of homes. I'm seeing the traction. I'm talking to other brokers. I'm talking to attorneys. I'm talking to title people. And these are people who I have a relationship with. And you're finding out the information and giving the grassroots information to people, not what you're hearing on the television. Because
you do a good job of that on posting.
Yeah.
I always, one of the things I say all the time, and I just did a post on this, was you got to tell the story. It's not just listed. It's not just sold. You do a very good job when you're out in front of the house and you'll film a quick video. Yeah. Who films your video? Do you have a...
You're going to love this.
Okay. Let me finish though. So you always tell a story about you were going to list that. You say, I went on we listed the house. We had this many showings.
Yeah.
We sold the house 10,000 over list. Yeah. We did this. The buyers purchased a home here and we were able to get them closed in this. And they only had one day. It's like, you do a very, very good job of kind of laying out the series of events in a 45-second video.
Of course.
That I love, because I think it tells the story. Because then someone watching your videos is going to be like, oh, well, they did it. I can do it. And that's what's telling the story, which I think is missing in a lot of social media. Because we're just celebrating.
Correct.
Oh, I sold it in one day. But that doesn't tell the story. It doesn't
tell anything.
Exactly.
It doesn't tell about the inspection. It doesn't tell about the appraisal. It doesn't tell about the attorney review. It doesn't talk about any of that. So if you explain, I don't want to say most, if you've never bought a home before, you don't understand the process unless you go on YouTube or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. But if you explain the process and provide people with information, not just pumping your tires because you sold a house.
Yeah.
So providing information. If people are provided with information, you're providing value.
Yeah.
So every day we see a post with you regularly. It's information about the markets. It's a snapshot in 45 seconds, just like you.
Yeah, it's hard.
And explaining, and you have to get that information because people want to scroll through videos. If they're a minute long, people are like, I'm done.
They're done.
They're done. I hate to say that, but you do. You comprise compile the information in a very short video, just like I do. And I've taken things that you do.
Or
and
you hold a kid's umbrella, and that keeps their attention a little bit longer. Was that your best performing video?
That or the one I was on South Lakeshore Drive and I almost tripped into a bush. Both those are the first video was the one with the Minnie Mouse umbrella, and that was a house in Woodridge, and that was probably I've got a lot of views on that one. But that was the first one. But it goes back, Eric. Don't be afraid to be you.
Yeah.
And stop trying to be someone you're not. And that's what you've. So thankful to all the compliments you said about me and how I'm doing things.
Well, because it's the Adam I know.
Yes.
And that's the Adam that everyone else gets to see. And that's kind of the secret.
Yeah.
We're friends because of Adam that we all grew up and loved and laughed at and had a good time and, staying out too late and all the crazy things we did. And that's the Adam that everyone else gets to see in all these videos that I think, we all love and laugh at, and it's who you are, and it's why people want to work with you. That's the reality.
I think going forward, even going into next year, I think it's going to be a bigger. We're going to pick up. I think you've seen it. You said just rates have come down to palatable rates. Do you agree with that? Or
rates went down to 6%. They're a little bit higher now, which is entirely normal. Anytime you have a big move, but we're still way below where we were in September. We are at 8%. 8.03 a year ago.
Yeah.
So we're at 6.5 now, 6.6 now. We got as low as 6. So, rates don't go down a straight line. It's going to be a bumpy ride but all the volatility is what's going to create the opportunity moving forward. And I think, the idea of you're just going to wait and all of a sudden rates are going to be 5% is just not going to happen. And when they do get to that point, there's going to be so many buyers that have reflooded the market, to your point earlier, that it's going to make, 4 offers on a property, 8 to 10 to 12. You're going to be paying way more for the property, and you're going to have way more frustration trying to get offers accepted. So, taking advantage of these blips in the radar. We have an election this year, There's a lot of uncertainty that's going to create. But I've been saying it a lot. I feel like the next 60, 90, 120 days are probably going to be the best opportunities to purchase in a very long time. Because I think once rates start to come down more consistently and that news gets out, I'm sure you saw it a little bit when the Fed lowered rates.
Yes.
You get a lot of phone calls. Is this the time? Is this when I go back in? Now imagine when that's followed with news that rates, touch 5.5% or 5.25%. Now you get more people that, that enter the market. So it's very difficult to kind of time the market.
Yes.
I always use the analogy. It's like buying a stock. You're never going to buy it at $20 if you get an opportunity to buy it at 20, and then you're like, once it gets to 15, I'm going to buy it. Well, then it's at 25.
Exactly.
And then you lost the opportunity at 20. So that's really important. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, NAR lawsuit.
Yes.
Okay. We could spend an hour on it, but I don't really want to, go too deep into it. But I really wanted to kind of get your thoughts as the way you run your business, if you run it any differently today, the buyer consultation process. Just if you could give me the quick little, again, it's a.
This could be a 2-hour long conversation. So here, a couple things. I remember when this first came out, I had a listing in Bolingbrook, and I tried to throw certain scenarios to kind of help describe how the situations have gone for me. So I had a client in Bolingbrook, sold the house 2 doors down for $575. This guy wanted $640. Sunday morning, he calls me up and says, "What's about this whole NAR lawsuit?" I said to myself, I love it.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
I feel the same way.
Bring it on. And I will tell you why. What I really learned through this whole NAR thing, and just in salesmanship, is ask the question. Ask the question. So we're sitting there at the kitchen table, and I love the kitchen tables. The families all sit with me, about 6 people. And I asked them, I go, if you went to work and you didn't get paid after all the work you did, how would you feel? And he looked at me. He goes, "Oh, I understand. I said, "Do you also want to get your $640 amount that you want?" "Yeah, of course they do." "Well, it would be helpful I asked him, I said, would it be helpful to have cooperation from the other side, aka buyer's agent?
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I have no problem paying you. I go, I understand that, but I'm asking you the question, do you want to achieve the number that you're looking for? Then do we need cooperation from the other side? He goes, you make a very good point. So I think more or less is like, and just in salesmanship is ask the question.
Yeah.
It's not making the statement. It says, no, you have to pay, let's say you're the seller.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you have to pay buyer's commission. Obviously it is what it is, but if you're looking to achieve the higher dollar amounts, buyer's compensation is something that you would want to facilitate. So, and buyers coming in, sometimes they're buying at the peak of their dollar amount.
Yeah.
So I feel sometimes, and this is just, buyers are a little bit more reluctant to be where they have to kick in to pay the buyer's agent. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you touched on it. You know, I love ask the question, and I love the way you framed it. I think it's perfect. Also, I think it's super simple.
That's it.
I think we've overcomplicated this issue. And I think, to your point, it's a massive opportunity for those people who can sit at a kitchen table. I love that you mentioned that, because I think, again, people that are comfortable in that environment, which you obviously are because you went up to Dick Portillo in a parking lot,
Yes, sir.
you can easily handle, you know, a kitchen table conversation. That's separation season. That's where you're separating yourself from your competition, because you're able to have a difficult conversation, make it very easy. And there are plenty of stats out there that you can look that have been the same for 30 years on for sale by owners on what the average sales price is compared to ones that used a realtor. Those stats have held true for a very long time. And it always shows that by hiring a realtor or realtors, you're going to have a higher sales price and net more money even after paying commissions, okay? But I think it goes back to, again, work ethic and being able to have that conversation, welcome that conversation, and not shy away from it. And I think, you know, being able to discuss that with a client, I always say it too, it's when I sit down with a buyer consultation, we may never discuss rate the entire first consultation because we're discussing everything else.
Exactly.
Their motivations, what, you know, all the different things that they want to go through. Rate is, you know, something we'll go through, obviously, but it doesn't need to be, if you lead with rate or you lead with compensation, then that's all they're going to remember in your conversation. You've discussed nothing else about their motivations to buy or sell, what their, you know, ultimate goal is, what's going on that they need to sell. There's a lot of emotions. You know, how do you handle those situations? Because I think that goes with emotions of buying, selling. There's a lot of different personalities, emotions, whether it be a death. You even have emotions of we're having a new baby or we need, you know, how do you deal with all that and how do you take that all on?
I love this question because I'm a father of four. You're a father. And so you have to look at it this way, is be in their shoes. So if it means a death in the family, well, if it means you taking that extra initiative to do things, do it. And it will make a big impact to the family. I think just customizing things. I brought up my client has 2 kids and 2 dogs, and I say to him, like, listen, we'll show the house in between this time and this time. So you already know you're getting a 24-hour notice that we're going to do this, and you won't be inconvenienced. So if you're providing that seamless service where it's not like every hour on the hour the seller has to leave, and then that's what, you know what happens? People get frustrated. So you've got make it easy. And it's not like reinventing. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just putting a different rim on it. So you brought up for sale by owners, and there's situations where sellers, I've called them and they're like, I'm not dealing with the broker. I go, that's fine. I just want to say, hey, I'm here to help. If you're looking to make sale, been in the industry for a long time, blah, blah, blah. You know, the whole sales pitch. But one phrase I learned about the for sale by owners, don't step over a dollar to pick up a penny. And I think that's what you were just reiterating is that you might think you're going to win at the end by putting it for sale by owner, but I asked the question to some people, how many houses have you sold? And they say, well, 1. Well, would you trust the surgeon who's only done 1 surgery in your life on a heart surgeon? And most people who own their homes, that's their largest investment that they'll make. So why would you try to skate around it? More or less. So
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Fire away.
You know, we're dealing with some stuff right now, and the thought that came to me earlier today is, you know, not every deal is worth saving. Okay, and you've talked a lot about, you know, all this tailored service and everything that you do. You have a client that basically doesn't appreciate any of that. That is just, you know, they're just running your. Is there a client that I don't want to say you don't want to work with, but have you had to like gone through something where it just wasn't a good? And the reason I say this, and I love discussing this, especially for someone like yourself that is so relationship oriented, is sometimes these people can just suck everything out of you.
Yes.
And the problem that creates is, and this is hard for me that I learned, is it's taken away all the relationships that I have of the people that know, love, and respect what I do. How do you handle those? And is it as easy as just saying, this is the way that I work and, you know, I need, or do you have to like, and I'm just, the reason I ask you this is because I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
And the problem is it takes away so much from the people that are, you know, that are taking it in and hired you for that.
Yes.
Because you're spending so much time over here. Because sometimes this is a sport for some people.
Yeah.
And they love it. So how do you handle that?
Well, you have to have a stomach for it.
Yeah.
You have to patience.
Yeah.
Patience is very important. I think you and I were involved in a deal last year at this time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're bringing it up. There were and this is very far few in between, but they received the white glove service, but still they were complacent. And it was like, listen, the market dictates where things are price point wise.
Yeah.
Those are things that I cannot change. And if your house is worth X at this moment, that's what the market dictates. I have been where I feel like sometimes there's been one, just probably one, or I can count on one hand where some people maybe took advantage of my professionalism as much as they could. Some people might walk away, but I really kind of feel sometimes just if I stick with it just a little bit longer and just be a little more just patient. I think just more or less asking the right questions to the seller or the client to find out what direction they want to go. So I think without me making the statements, because in those situations where those clients are difficult, you ask those questions because I don't think they don't want you to hear making the statements. Yeah. They want to hear ask the questions because they want to hear them self-talk. They want to run their own show. There's nothing that you're going to say is going to change their idea, mindset, whatever. Yeah. So I'm sure you've walked into some clients where you're just what am I doing here?
It's patience is, I think, the best word. And I always say this too, the worst in people will come out during a real estate transaction.
100%.
It's the most stressful. So you can't take it personal.
No.
You can't.
No.
It's easy to.
Yeah.
And because you care. And I say sometimes I wish I didn't care as much as I do, but it is something that you have to kind of,
But you put your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
When you put your heart and soul into it, it does bother you, but you're resilient. You have thick skin.
And it's not about us at the end of the day.
No, it's about the clients.
Yeah. It's about, and I always say too, like, even if the client is not appreciative of what we're doing, they're still a seller.
Yeah.
There's still other parties that are dependent.
They're going to talk about you.
There are other sales that are going on that are dependent on this transaction. And as difficult as it is to pull together, there's all these other pieces that are depending on us that we have to deliver on. And if we don't, we're going to, let down not just this client. And, I don't need a pat on the back. I just want to make sure. I think that's what separates, and the reason I brought it up is I think it separates a good realtor from a great realtor is the ability to show patience. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of egos in our industry. There's a lot of, I'm better than this, and I don't, and there's always a better way to deal with it than I think sometimes we all do at times. So I just wanted to mention that. So Adam, I wanted to say, this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously since you gotten into business, you've been, someone that I've always kept my eye on because you're on social media, you've done great. I've been fortunate enough where we've worked together and just want to congratulate you on, building what you have.
Thank you.
And as a friend,
and you the same.
No, absolutely. It's been fun. And I know we have plenty more fun times ahead. Last thing I'll leave you with is I think you do a great job in real estate, but I think you're even a better father.
That means the world to me.
Yeah,
That
I
means the world to me.
you show this. You're traveling this weekend.
Yes.
To you're all over the place. Hockey.
Yes.
If you're gonna pick a sport, and it's going to be economical. Hockey is not the sport.
Oh, it isn't.
Because he's traveling all over the place. But how do you manage real estate?
Yeah.
And then you're always at the rink.
Yeah.
You're there for your kids. Mm-hmm. They see dad working, but they also see dad at the rink, and then one doesn't sacrifice the other. So real quick, how do you...
They also see dad when dad brings the boys to a showing and they're in the car on their iPads. But you know what? That's a good thing. It's like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to going to work with my dad.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to instill. It's when, if there's kids, the boys will come into the showing.
Yeah.
What do I teach them? Go up to someone's hand, shake their hand.
Yeah.
Look them in the eyes. Hard, firm handshake. Things that I was taught as a young man that these skills should be taught in school.
That's how you went up to Dick Portillo.
That's exactly how.
Yeah.
That's exactly how. I'm a big fan of sports, whatever it may be, whatever the kids end up doing, but keeping them structured.
And real quick on Portillo's, I want to get this on video. The salads have never been the same. Okay, since Adam left, my chopped salad has never been as good as it was with Adam. So I want to put that out there.
That's good. That's good.
It was a noticeable difference. Yeah.
I'm sure people say the same thing.
Yeah.
But like with the hockey, I mean, I'm at the rink from 4 to 8.
Yeah.
But the thing is my kids see me watching. I'm there every practice. I'm there every game, and they're going to notice that. It's going to, as you know, your son's in soccer. He's in other sports, but it's going to go by so quickly that I just don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough. My dad made sure I was a goalie in hockey. That's another thing that I want to bring up really quickly, but it taught me to being goaltender is extremely difficult, especially getting lit up in one period 8 goals.
Yeah.
But it's teaching the mindset of like resilience and confidence
and stuff coming at you all the time. From
and you know what? Be ready. You know what I mean? But be ready. And I think just that's why I preach on the sports. And both my boys are playing pretty high level, or not for young kids. But there's accountability.
Yeah.
That's what these coaches talk about. It's like you're not going to go on the ice unless you work your butt off. And it's kind of like our business. You're not going to make.
There's a lot of analogies in sports that relate to business.
Yes.
That when kids are in sports, it teaches a lot of life lessons. They don't need to be in the NHL.
No.
They need to learn team structures, responsibilities, and all the things that sports teaches kids is irreplaceable. Like you don't learn that in school. You don't learn that anywhere. No. My team will say I talk about sports every single day because there's so many analogies that can relate to what we do. And I think you're doing an amazing job with your kids, being a great father, running a business. Like it's something you should be very proud of because I think it's something that you're there. Like, you're there.
Oh, yeah.
You're not just paying for it. You're there.
They asked me to go on the ice too.
Yeah.
I have no choice.
Well, until you get injured, and then
then they're wheeling me around the ice.
Exactly. Yeah, or until you blow an Achilles at a men's league.
Oh, jeez. I know. That time is limited, but I enjoy stepping on the ice with just my boys sometimes. But again, it's this industry has helped me to. That's another big reason why I went into real estate is to have the family balance to your life.
And listen, I think you do a very good job of that. I think a lot of people struggle with it. You do a very good job of it. Honestly, your legacy will be more about your being a father than it will be real estate.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's you've obviously done a great job in doing both. So
thank you.
There's a big congratulations for that. So we have a lot of these conversations. Yes. It was nice to finally get something.
Yes.
I was excited for this just because of your background and work ethic and all the things growing up that I witnessed. Obviously, being a friend of yours, I hope telling a little bit about your story and getting it out there will, hopefully help you out because I think it's a lot of who you are.
Thank you.
And for those of you who don't know that kind of background, I think it's important for people to know because I think it's a lot of who you are and says a lot about the business you've built. So congratulations on a great business.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking some time to sit down with us.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much again. It's awesome. We've known each other for so long, and it's to be that we're both in the same industry. It's, we've been good friends. We both had the same motorcycle, so I always, looked up to you, and I appreciate all the help you've given me throughout the years. So
Absolutely.
You and your team.
It's been our pleasure, and we don't consider it, work. Obviously, we have a lot We have way too many laughs.
I know.
Yeah. So
I know.
we enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun.
No, yes, actually, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you.